We have heard the testimony of a victim herself who had been uprooted from her home, raised in a different country, and does not know her own identity anymore. But despite that, she has never given up, and she hasn't lost hope. And she has read part of the list of disappeared persons in her area, and these are not just mere statistics, but it signifies pain of the victims themselves and of the families of the victims and of the rest of society. Go to the next speaker, James Nichols.
Let me just say that I'm here because I'm a lawyer, and I represented in the United Kingdom Herbert Marry, who was charged with terrorist offences. These were said to be terrorist offences not committed in the United Kingdom, not directed against the United Kingdom, not directed against any citizen of the United Kingdom, not directed against any property of the United Kingdom, not connected with the United Kingdom at all, except that Mr. Marry happened to live in the United Kingdom. The allegation against him was that he was asking young people and the people of Balochistan to stand up and to fight back in self-defense against the atrocities that were being committed against the Baloch people by the Pakistan government. That was the nature of the charge, and that is what we defended. There was a second man charged, Fayaz Baloch, and he too was charged with the same offences, although I did not represent him. That was he was arrested, Herbert Marry was arrested in 2007, I think, at the end of 2007, 2008, 2007. I think that I discussed coming here today with some of my colleagues who were also involved in the trial, and I think between us we decided that it would be appropriate for someone like myself to apologise to the people of Baloch who are at this conference, and to apologise for this reason. I mean, I'm now 65 years of age. I'm a lawyer. I specialise in crime. But I have been around, and I mean, I know of what happened in Chile, and I know of what happened in South Africa, and what happened in Argentina. But if you'd asked me at the end of 2007 about Balochistan, I'm ashamed to say that I would probably have got the place wrong. If someone had said to me, "Where is Balochistan?" I might have said to them, "Is it one of those old Soviet Union countries?" And I'm ashamed to say that because I didn't know about Balochistan, and I didn't know about the tortures, and I didn't know about the government killing of people who came from Balochistan. The sad thing is, if I didn't know about it, and I know about all those other things, then of course you can think about the rest of the population in the United Kingdom who know, sadly, even less than I do. And of course, since then, and even to date, I often say to people that I come across, and they'll say, "What cases have you been doing?" I say, I've defended this man called Herbert Marry from Balochistan, and then I will say, "Where's Balochistan?" And there's this long silence, as people think, and they come up with the same answer that I might have given in 2007. So one of those Soviet states. And so now I know a little bit more about it. And so there are people like me who, as a result of this trial, are able to talk to people, and some people of influence, some people who are in Parliament, some people who are in the House of Lords in the United Kingdom, and to tell them a lot more about Balochistan than I myself knew in 2007. So to that extent, I think it is very sad that the state of affairs in the United Kingdom is like that. It needn't always be like that, and I don't want to sound as if I think there can be no progress. I think there can be progress, and I'll deal with that in a short while, but I think it was important to say that. So I've learned a lot from defending Herbert Marry. I suppose the first lesson I've learned is this, is that as our last speaker said about the disappearances in Balochistan, and I'm sure that we're going to hear more of that as the day progresses, that the long arm of the military of Pakistan and the long arm of the secret services of Pakistan is longer than just from the capital into Balochistan. It stretches as far as the United Kingdom, because in my view, there is no doubt that the prosecution against Herbert Marry, whilst being technically brought by the Crown Prosecution Service, who is an agent of the British government, was in fact instigated by Musharraf in order to try and silence Herbert Marry. And of course I'm aware that 2 weeks prior to his arrest, which I think was the beginning of December 2007, that his brother was murdered in Balochistan. So I learned that lesson, that the long arm of the Pakistan government and military extend much further than just what it claims to be its own national territory. And that is a lesson. If they can do that, if they can have such influence on such governments that people like Herbert Marry can be arrested on such flimsy evidence, that is a matter that we lawyers and we people who come from the United Kingdom have to take into account. As I say, I've now, I'm not terribly learned in relation to Balochistan, but I've read now some of the reports from the International Crisis Group, and I've read the reports from Amnesty International. But for me, more significantly, and particularly being a lawyer, I've had an opportunity of conducting my own investigation into the torture and disappearance of people in Balochistan, and that I did in order to prepare Mr. Marry's case. Now, I like to think that I'm an experienced lawyer. I've conducted many serious trials, and I've interviewed in my time many thousands of witnesses. And I'm aware that when I interview witnesses, they know why I'm doing it, and they know what the issue is. And therefore, from my point of view, I have to be careful when I'm looking at witnesses to ensure that they're being truthful, to ensure that they're not exaggerating, to ensure that they're not telling the occasional lie in order to bolster the case because they want to help the defendant. And the defendant in this case was Herbert Marry. So I'm aware of that, and I'm on the lookout for that. And I've spent a lot of my professional career telling my clients that we are not calling these witnesses because I cannot trust them, because there is nothing worse than having in court a witness who is not telling the truth, because the judge will detect that immediately. And more significantly, within the British jurisdiction, as in the American jurisdiction, there is a jury which comprises of 12 ordinary, decent men and women. And if they detect that a witness is lying, they're not going to believe what the witness has to say. So I'm on to that. I know that, and I'm for excluding people who are telling lies. So I went to Karachi at the end of, I think, 2008 or the beginning of 2009 to see if I could find witnesses who would support Mr. Marry's case. As I say, I was for excluding people who were lying. I didn't find such persons. And I have a technique of giving, in Britain we have it's not a very nice saying really, but the saying is, give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves. In other words, let's encourage them to see if they will actually tell a lie or two or exaggerate. And I have to say, I in all of my experience, I did not find that. I did not find that people exaggerated. It's interesting, you see, I would ask them about how they were abducted, and they would tell me about what happened to them and the torture that they would receive. But the same people would say, and then I was transferred from this prison to that prison. And you know, it wasn't bad then. Actually, they fed me then, and I wasn't tortured. They could have said, they transferred me from this prison to that prison. You know, it was really bad there. You know, the torture was even worse there. But no, people didn't. People simply told me the stories that they had to tell, the truthful stories that they had to tell. And a number of those people, I think I interviewed over a period of a week. It was really quite difficult, but I interviewed, I think, something like 29 people who'd been tortured. But of the 29, in fact, some of them hadn't been tortured because they were the wives and the loved ones of people who had been tortured and who, in fact, had still disappeared and hadn't emerged. And, of course, the real fear amongst the loved ones was that they would never re-emerge, that, in fact, they'd been killed by the ISI. And so I listened to their stories. And I have to say that I was completely and utterly shocked at what I heard. I recall interviewing a man by the name, I think it was Nur Muhammad, and he was brought to me. He was carried to me by two men. He simply could not walk, and he has not been able to walk for a number of years, having been tortured and his legs effectively broken and been unable to work. And he is now, I think, 40 years of age. And I asked him what had happened to him. And so maybe I'll just read to you a short piece of what he says to me about it. These are notes of my... It was difficult to interview people. Of course, they were speaking in their language of Balochi or sometimes Urdu, and it was being translated to me. But interestingly, before I tell you that, I had a really excellent young man who came with me from Karachi, who worked in Karachi as a journalist, to translate for me. And we were working in one of the suburbs of Karachi, and very late at night, we'd worked until almost 12 o'clock. We came back, the two of us in the hotel. I was sitting in the front.